Hey you guys, welcome in and thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Brianna, which means noble and strong, and I do godly content. So as you come in, please hit that like button so we can get this godly content pushed out in this YouTube algorithm. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. A narcissist is pretty much the closest thing to a demon. These people are broken because of things that happened to them in their childhood, so they go throughout life spreading hatred and bitterness into the world, all while trying to convince people to love them through lies and manipulation. So my mom was a narcissist while my dad was like there, but not there at the same time, extremely similar to the Jezebel and Abel relationship, giving my mother the ability to have full control over the minds of her children. She loved to play the games of pretending to want our best interests in life, wanting us to succeed while hindering us from success. If anyone stepped out of line or formed their own opinion, that was met with rage, victim manipulation, and turning the entire family against you. It sounds completely crazy from the outside looking in, but when you're in it, especially if you're a child, it forms you into believing that's what love is. So I went out into the world creating and making extremely toxic relationships. One of my first ones was with an extra toxic best friend who wanted the worst from me, set me up, and did everything she could to do the worst to me. My next big relationship, which is something that that children of narcissists tend to do, is go out and get into relationships with narcissists. So I went out and actually because I pulled me a whole narcissistic boyfriend that said out of his own mouth that he wanted to kill me and still stayed 2 years after that. So I just added a whole lot of bad, toxic relationships to my life on top of the ones that were already formed for me from birth through like family and, my parents and things like that. This was all God's purpose though. When your parents forsake you, God becomes your father. God strategically allowed all this to happen to push me right into his arms, to also give me the wisdom to realize the exact type of people that I do and do not want in my life. Even when it comes to family and friends, a lot of people, especially like today, they don't realize how important it is that you have to take big steps. You have to be a big stepper, even if you got to cut ties with family and friends. They don't realize that they're not getting out of their toxic lifestyle and they're not growing because they're staying around these toxic family members that are pouring toxicity into their life, killing their hope, killing their love, killing their forgiveness, clouding them to where they can't see clearly and grow. The Bible says that your enemies will be within your own household. So why do you think it says that? If these people in your own household, if your family members, even if they're your intermediate family members, are toxic, they need to be cut off as well for your health and for your walk with God. Even Jesus said, like when Mary and Jesus' brothers came to see him with envy in their heart towards Jesus, and they wanted to, like, Jesus come out and talk to him. Jesus said, who is my mother and who is my brothers? My mother and my brothers are people that do the will of my Father in heaven. That's who your brothers and your sisters and your mother and your father truly is. Not someone that has blood in you. All that blood is thicker than water stuff. That's man-made, worldly created stuff. I don't know where this came from, but everybody or a majority of people are on this impression that blessings from God all look like these fairy tales where it's money, houses, cars, marriage, and everything's just all sweet all the time. But some of God's blessings look like spiritual warfare, that extreme spiritual warfare, that fire. Because if they weren't, we wouldn't listen, learn, or grow. True love builds you into the best version of yourself, that version made of gold. And that's the type of love that God has for us. My walk may not always look pretty. I may mess up a lot, but best believe I'm always walking toward making myself into that gold. So I'm coming across a lot of witches, warlocks, and demons while I'm finally in the first season of my life where I am not in any ties to any type of toxic relationship, just a wilderness season of me and God. And little do you know, when you're most alone, like if you're in a wilderness season where it's like isolation, that's when you're going to be the closest to God. So the devil is sending these witches, warlocks, and demons on a daily basis because I'm finally free. And he knows that a good way to get us to not go into our power, not go into our purpose is to bind us up with these people that come in human form. It looks like humans, but it's really like these witches, warlocks, and demons working through these people to make them want to do all this stuff to you, to tie you up in these weird relationships. And that's why all these people are like all these men that I know for a fact are not my person are coming at me aggressively. All these women trying to force friendship on me, even these like associates and strangers trying to force themselves on me in the weirdest kind of ways, trying to gain access in the most creepiest little forceful way because they want to bind me up any way they can. They want to take away my freedom because they see what my purpose is and what I'm walking to and how powerful I'm going to be the closer that I get to the Lord. And yes, with this comes a lot of growing pains, but I like being free. I like this new freedom to where I finally feel like my head's out of the clouds. Like I'm not walking around in fog, unable to clearly see. I can now clearly see why everybody just shouldn't be allowed to have access to me. Honestly, a majority of this population is toxic and don't know how to treat people. And they're so lost that they're allowing these demons to hop in and out of them that they can't have access to me. But I'm also learning that I need to gain the strength to give different people different levels of access to me. Because at the end of the day, it is my purpose to spread the good news. And there's also different levels to people being lost. I'm also seeing, receiving visions, receiving talks from God where He's telling me that I'm also going to have to gain the strength to have another level of forgiveness for these lost people or these people that were lost in the past and what they did to me, to where I'm not only forgiving them and just letting go what they did, but also like being so spiritually mature where I'm taking myself out of the situation to the point where I'm not even focused on what they did to me. I'm focused on getting the good news to them by either leading by example or accepting the better version of them back into my life, because that's a whole nother level of forgiveness. That's a whole nother level of spiritual growth. That's a whole nother level even for me to like be able to be joyful and not living in the moment, allowing these people to transfer the way they're feeling, the way they are, how lost they are onto me, transfer the demons that they're dealing with onto me. That's a whole nother level of being growing in God for me. And the fact of like how, we all read Joseph's story. Everybody loves Joseph's story because, it makes them feel good about themselves for whatever reason, when a lot of people wouldn't have the capacity to do what Joseph did. But we don't talk about how we would be willing to forgive our brothers that, sold us and we're in jail for a majority of our life because of that. But we still go back and forgive them and, give them wealth after what they did to us. Nobody talks about that. And then also people don't talk about, it's like even with the Joseph story, they just want to talk about what they did to him and how he leveled up after. That's what people want to talk about, but they don't want to talk about the forgiveness that he did and what he did for his siblings afterwards. And then on top of that, nobody talks about what Job did at the end of his story with all the people that were doing that to him, his friends and his family, his wife, how he just accepted them back into his life after all that he had been through. You know, that's not something that people want to talk about, but that's a whole nother level of spiritual growth that I want to get into. I want to get into what these disciples were doing in the Bible. That's where we want to get to. I'm currently reading Peter, y'all. Mm. If you haven't read Peter, I mean, allow God to lead you where He wants you to read. But He led me to read Peter, and I was just thinking, I've been dealing with a lot of anger, dealing with these people. And I was thinking that when I got into Peter, I'm like, yeah, I get to finally read Peter. Peter, he was down for the Lord, but he had a little attitude behind it. I'm gonna be able to, feel that a little bit. No, not at all. Peter is like a Proverbs, just getting with you left and right. And it's like I have to read it like verse by verse because Peter says so much in one verse that just really just, like punches me in the stomach. It's crazy, but Peter's definitely a good read, and it's exactly what I need to combat my anger in a way that's It's crazy how it's meeting me. But yeah, y'all, that's all I have to say for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for making it to the end. And if you haven't already, like this video so we can get this godly content pushed out in this YouTube algorithm. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.